Jake Thompson's boots crunched on the crystal floor as he pushed deeper into the caves of Vethra Prime. The air was thick and humid, making his shirt stick to his back. He had been exploring these tunnels for 3 days straight, and his water bottle was nearly empty. But something kept pulling him forward, like a voice calling from the darkness. The 20-year-old student from Earth had signed up for this dig because he needed credits for his xenoarchaeology degree. Most of his classmates thought he was crazy for picking such a remote assignment. Vethra Prime was on the edge of known space, a forgotten world where nothing interesting had ever been found. His professor had even laughed when Jake volunteered. "You'll probably just find more rocks and dust," Professor Williams had said. "But if you want to waste your summer break crawling through caves, be my guest." Now, as Jake squeezed through a narrow passage that opened into a massive chamber, he realized his professor couldn't have been more wrong. The cavern stretched out before him like a cathedral made of living crystal. The walls pulsed with a soft, rainbow light that seemed to breathe. Strange formations jutted from the ceiling, creating shadows that danced and moved. But none of that compared to what lay in the center. At first, Jake thought it was a statue. The creature was enormous, easily the size of a small spaceship, coiled in a perfect spiral. Its body was covered in scales that looked like they had once held the light of stars. But as Jake stepped closer, he saw the scales were cracked and dull, flickering weakly like a dying campfire. Then the eyes opened. They were ancient eyes, deeper than space itself. Jake felt like he was looking into the birth and death of entire solar systems. His legs went weak, and he had to grab onto a crystal formation to keep from falling. The voice that spoke wasn't heard with his ears. It came from inside his head, warm and sad like the memory of his grandfather's voice. "You are human." The words carried wonder and surprise. "I had not expected to see one of your kind here, so far from your little blue world." Jake's mouth went dry. He tried to speak but could only manage a whisper. "What are you?" "I am Aurelius," the dragon replied, and Jake somehow knew that was exactly what this creature was, though he had never seen anything like it. "I am the last of the star dragons, and I have been dying here alone for longer than your species has known fire." The dragon's massive head lifted slightly, and Jake could see the effort it took. Each breath seemed to cost the creature enormous energy. 300 years I have waited," Aurelius continued. "Waiting for death to finally take me, waiting for the last light in my scales to fade forever." Jake found his voice again. "Why are you dying? Are you sick?" A sound like distant wind chimes filled the cavern, and Jake realized the dragon was laughing, though there was no joy in it. "Sick? No, young human. I am dying because there is no purpose left for me. My kind once sang to the stars themselves. We healed dying suns, guided newborn planets into safe orbits, and kept the cosmic forces in balance. We were the gardeners of space itself." Images flooded Jake's mind as Aurelius shared his memories. He saw dragons dancing between stars, their voices creating beautiful music that made entire solar systems glow brighter. He watched as they nursed sick stars back to health and sang lullabies to calm violent cosmic storms. "It sounds amazing," Jake said, his eyes wide with wonder. "What happened to them? To you?" The dragon's light dimmed further, and his voice became bitter. "The Galactic Concordat happened. They said our abilities were too dangerous, that we could destroy stars as easily as heal them. They were afraid of our power, afraid that we might use it against them. So they made laws against you." "Laws?" Aurelius's laugh was harsher this time. "No, Jake Thompson of Earth. They hunted us. Ship by ship, world by world, they tracked down every star dragon in the galaxy. They killed my brothers and sisters, my parents, my children. They burned our nesting grounds and destroyed our song crystals." Jake felt sick. "That's horrible. How did you survive?" "I hid," the dragon said simply. "Like a coward, I fled to this forgotten world and sealed myself in these caves. I thought perhaps I could wait until the Concordat forgot about us, until it was safe to sing again. But centuries passed, and I realized the truth. I am truly the last. When I die, the songs die with me." The cavern grew quiet except for the soft sound of Aurelius's labored breathing. Jake could see that each breath was getting harder for the great creature. "The stars are already suffering without us," Aurelius whispered. "Across the galaxy, suns are burning out too quickly. Planets are drifting from their orbits. The cosmic harmony we maintained for millions of years is breaking down, and there is no one left to fix it." Jake felt tears running down his face. He had come here looking for ancient artifacts to write about in a boring school paper. Instead, he had found the last guardian of the galaxy, dying alone in the dark. There has to be something we can do, Jake said desperately. Some way to help you, to bring back the songs. Aurelius's eyes fixed on him with sudden intensity. The songs require a very special kind of voice, Jake Thompson. Not just any creature can sing them. The neural patterns must be exactly right, the vocal cords must vibrate at precise frequencies. My kind spent millions of years evolving this ability. But surely someone else could learn? The Concordat tried, actually, Aurelius said with bitter amusement. Before they decided to destroy us, they captured several of my kind and tried to force us to teach other species. None could even come close. The Altarians' voices were too high, the Centauri too low. The Vegan Empire's telepaths could understand the mathematics of the songs but couldn't produce the sounds. Jake slumped against the crystal wall, feeling hopeless. So when you die, that's it. The galaxy just has to live with dying stars and broken planets. Aurelius was quiet for a long moment, studying Jake with those ancient eyes. When he spoke again, his voice held something Jake hadn't heard before, a tiny spark of hope. Perhaps not, the dragon said slowly. There is something strange about your neural pattern, young human. Something familiar, yet different from any species I have encountered. Tell me, Jake Thompson, does your kind sing? Jake knew he should have called this in hours ago. His training at the academy had been clear about protocols. Any discovery of unknown life forms was supposed to be reported immediately to the survey team. His supervisor, Dr. Amanda Collins, would be furious when she found out he had been missing for so long without contact. But something kept him glued to the crystal floor beside Aurelius. Maybe it was the way the dragon's light grew a little brighter whenever Jake spoke, or maybe it was the incredible stories flowing through his mind. Either way, Jake couldn't bring himself to leave this amazing creature alone. Let me show you what we were, Aurelius whispered, his voice growing weaker by the hour. Suddenly, Jake's mind exploded with visions that weren't his own. He saw the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, alive with music and light. Star dragons soared between planets, their massive wings catching stellar winds as they sang in voices that could be heard across light years. The songs were unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. They weren't just melodies but living mathematics, each note precisely calculated to resonate with the atomic structure of stars. When a sun began to dim with age, the dragons would surround it in formation, their voices weaving together in complex harmonies that could restart nuclear fusion in the star's core. Jake watched in amazement as dying red giants transformed into brilliant yellow suns again, their light bringing warmth back to frozen worlds. He saw dragons singing newborn planets into stable orbits, their melodies acting like invisible hands guiding entire worlds to safety. We were healers, Aurelius explained as the visions continued. Every star in this galaxy was under our care. We knew each one by name, by the unique frequency of its nuclear song. When cosmic storms threatened to tear apart solar systems, we sang them back to calmness. When black holes grew too hungry, we knew the precise harmonies to make them sleep. The most incredible vision showed space itself bending and healing under Dragon's song. Jake watched in wonder as tears in the fabric of reality were sewn back together with musical threads, as time flowed backward to undo cosmic disasters, as entire nebulae danced in formation to the rhythm of dragon voices. How is that even possible? Jake asked, his head spinning from the incredible sights. Everything in the universe vibrates, Aurelius said patiently. From the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, everything has its own frequency, its own song. My people learn to hear these songs and sing along with them. When you match the frequency of something perfectly, you can change it, heal it, guide it. Jake tried to understand. Like when opera singers break glass with high notes. Exactly, but infinitely more complex. The song for healing a star might require 10,000 different harmonics, each one timed to the nanosecond. The mathematics involved were so complicated that it took my people millions of years to master them. But you're saying humans might be able to learn this? Aurelius's massive head turned toward Jake, those ancient eyes studying him intently. There have only been 2 species in galactic history capable of dragon song. My people, obviously, and the harmonist who vanished before your world was even formed. Both shared certain neural structures, specific brain wave patterns that could process the mathematical complexity of stellar harmonics. And you think humans have these patterns too? I sense something in your mind, Jake Thompson. A resonance frequency that matches the old patterns. Your species evolved differently than most, in isolation on your small world. Perhaps that isolation allowed you to develop in ways that mirror the ancient harmonists. Before Jake could ask more questions, his communicator erupted with static. Dr. Collins's voice crackled through, distorted and urgent. Jake, wherever you are, you need to get out of those caves right now. We've got Concordat warships dropping out of hyperspace. 3 destroyer-class vessels, and they're not here for a friendly visit. Jake's blood turned cold. The Concordat was the galaxy's military police, and they didn't send destroyers unless they expected serious trouble. They're scanning the planet's surface, Collins continued, her voice tight with fear. I'm picking up military landing shuttles heading for your sector. Jake, they're talking about something called a final cleansing protocol on the comm channels. Aurelius's eyes blazed with sudden fire, brighter than they had been in hours. So, they have found me at last. I should have known this day would come. What's a final cleansing protocol? Jake asked, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew. It means they intend to sterilize this entire region, Aurelius replied grimly. Orbital bombardment, probably. They want to make absolutely certain that the last Star Dragon dies, along with any knowledge he might have shared. Jake could hear the rumble of military shuttles in the distance, getting closer. Soon, Concordat soldiers would be rappelling into these caverns with orders to kill anything that moved. You have to go, Aurelius said urgently. Run, Jake Thompson. Live to remember what you have seen here. But Jake surprised himself by shaking his head. No. If you're going to die anyway, and they're going to kill me for being here, then maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we should try. Try what? The songs, Jake said, his heart pounding. You said humans might be able to learn them. Maybe I can't save you, but maybe I can learn something that could help others later. Aurelius stared at him for a long moment, then began to glow brighter than he had since Jake first found him. You would risk everything for knowledge that has been forbidden for centuries? The Concordat will brand you a terrorist. They will hunt you across the galaxy. Let them, Jake said with more courage than he felt. If these songs can heal stars and save worlds, then people deserve to know about them. The dragon's laugh filled the cavern like distant thunder. Very well, Jake Thompson of Earth. If you truly wish to learn the most dangerous secret in the galaxy, then I will teach you. But know this, once you hear the first notes of Dragon Song, there will be no going back. You will carry this knowledge until the day you die, and that day may come very soon. The sound of military boots echoed from the tunnel entrance. They were running out of time. Then teach me quickly, Jake whispered. Aurelius closed his ancient eyes and began to hum, and suddenly Jake's mind filled with mathematical equations more beautiful and complex than anything he had ever imagined. The forbidden knowledge of the star dragons flowed into him like liquid fire, and somewhere in the distance, he could hear soldiers shouting his name. The sound of heavy boots on crystal grew louder until suddenly the cavern entrance exploded with bright white light. Jake squinted as armed figures rappelled down from the opening above, their military gear clanking against the cave walls. Red laser sights danced across his chest as at least 6 soldiers surrounded him and Aurelius. Hands where I can see them, civilian. The lead soldier's voice boomed through his helmet speaker. His armor bore the silver eagle insignia of the Concordat military police. Through his visor, Jake could see cold blue eyes studying the scene with professional detachment. Captain Ryan Mitchell stepped forward, his weapon trained directly at Jake's heart. Behind him, his squad maintained perfect formation, their plasma rifles humming with deadly energy. These weren't regular peacekeepers. These were the Concordat's elite extinction squad, the soldiers they sent when something needed to disappear forever. Step away from the creature, son, Mitchell ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed without question. You're interfering with official Concordat business. Jake's legs felt like jelly, but he forced himself to stand his ground in front of Aurelius. The dragon's light had dimmed to almost nothing during the past hour, barely a whisper of the magnificent glow Jake had first witnessed. He's already dying, Jake said, his voice cracking with emotion. Look at him. He can barely keep his eyes open. What possible threat could he be? Mitchell's laugh was harsh and mechanical through his helmet speakers. Threat? Kid, do you have any idea what you're looking at? This thing is a weapon of mass destruction. One song from a healthy star dragon could collapse an entire solar system. That's not true, Jake protested. They were healers. They helped stars, they didn't destroy them. Is that what it told you? Another soldier spoke up, her voice dripping with disgust. These creatures wiped out 3 civilizations before we stopped them. The Kepler massacre, the Vega incident, the total annihilation of the Proxima colonies. All of them sank to death by these monsters. Jake felt his world spinning. Could Aurelius have lied to him? But as he looked into the dragon's ancient eyes, he saw only sadness and truth. Show him, Aurelius whispered directly into Jake's mind. Show them what we really were. Without warning, images flooded Jake's consciousness again. But this time, he saw the other side of the story. He watched Concordat mining ships draining the life from healthy stars to power their war machines. He saw dragons desperately trying to heal the damage, only to be attacked by Concordat fleets. The so-called massacres were actually dragons trying to save dying worlds from stellar collapse caused by Concordat mining. You're the ones who killed those worlds, Jake said quietly, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. You drained their stars, and when the dragons tried to save them, you blamed the dragons for the destruction you caused. Mitchell's finger tightened on his weapon trigger. Enough. You've been contaminated by alien influence. Step away from the creature, or I'll assume you're working with it. Working with it to do what? He can barely lift his head. These things can hide their true power, Mitchell replied coldly. Command wants 0 survivors. The dragon dies, and unfortunately for you, so does anyone who's had contact with it. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. They weren't just here to kill Aurelius. They were here to kill him too, to eliminate any trace that star dragons had ever existed. Please, Jake begged, hating how his voice sounded. Just let me stay with him until the end. He's been alone for 300 years. Nobody should die alone like that. Sorry, kid. Orders are orders. The soldiers raised their weapons in perfect unison. Jake could see their fingers moving toward the triggers, could see death approaching in the cold glow of plasma charges building up in their rifle barrels. In that moment of absolute terror, Jake's mind went completely blank. Without conscious thought, without any plan at all, he found himself humming. It was just a simple melody, something his grandmother used to sing when he was little and couldn't sleep. A gentle tune about stars and dreams and faraway places. The melody echoed strangely in the crystalline chamber, bouncing off the walls and creating weird harmonics that seemed to hang in the air. Jake barely noticed. He was thinking about his grandmother's weathered hands stroking his hair, about the way she smelled like fresh bread and lavender, about how safe he had felt in her arms. Then something incredible happened. Aurelius's scales began to glow. At first, it was just a faint shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. But as Jake continued humming his grandmother's lullaby, the dragon's light grew stronger and stronger. The ancient creature's eyes opened wide with amazement, and suddenly his voice joined Jake's simple melody. The cavern transformed. What had been a gentle human lullaby became something else entirely when filtered through Aurelius's dragon voice. Mathematical harmonies that Jake couldn't understand with his conscious mind wove themselves into the simple tune. The crystalline walls began resonating, amplifying and transforming the sound into something that seemed to reach beyond the physical world. Jake felt the music flowing through his body like electricity, like liquid starlight coursing through his veins. Every cell in his body vibrated in perfect harmony with frequencies that touched the very fabric of space and time. The soldiers staggered backward as waves of pure energy pulsed through the chamber. Their weapons targeting systems went haywire, sparks flying from overloaded circuits. Several men fell to their knees, clutching their helmets as the dragon song interfered with their communication equipment. What the hell? Mitchell shouted over the otherworldly music. His voice was full of shock and something Jake had never expected to hear from a Concordat soldier, fear. Aurelius's massive form was glowing brighter than the soldiers' floodlights now. His scales rippled with colors that had no names, patterns of light that seemed to show the birth and death of entire galaxies. The dragon looked younger somehow, stronger, as if Jake's simple song was feeding him energy he hadn't felt in centuries. Impossible, Mitchell breathed, his weapon forgotten in his hands. The human is singing dragon song. But that's supposed to be impossible. Jake didn't stop humming. He couldn't stop. The melody had taken on a life of its own, flowing through him like a river he couldn't dam. He felt connected to something vast and ancient, something that had been waiting for his voice for longer than human civilization had existed. For the first time in 300 years, a star dragon was healing instead of dying. And somehow, impossibly, it was a simple lullaby from Earth that had made it possible. The soldiers watched in stunned silence as their carefully planned extinction mission fell apart around them, undone by a college student who just wanted to comfort a dying creature in its final moments. Jake never expected his life to change so completely in just 3 weeks. After the incident in the crystal cavern, everything happened so fast it made his head spin. Captain Mitchell and his soldiers had retreated in confusion, their equipment still sparking from the dragon song's effects. But Jake knew they would be back with better preparation next time. Aurelius had insisted that Jake leave Vethra Prime immediately. You must warn your people, the dragon had urged, his scales still glowing with newfound strength. If humans can truly sing our songs, then everything changes. But the Concordat will not allow this knowledge to spread peacefully. Now Jake sat in the cramped communications room of the research station orbiting Kepler 438b, watching his recorded message spread across human space like a virus. Every few minutes, his personal communicator buzzed with another incoming call. Scientists, government officials, journalists, and ordinary people from dozens of colonies all wanted to hear his story firsthand. Dr. Amanda Collins paced behind him, her face a mixture of excitement and terror. Jake, do you understand what you've done? The Concordat is calling this an act of war against galactic stability. They're saying you've weaponized an extinct alien species. But that's not what happened, Jake protested for the 100th time. I just sang a lullaby. Aurelius was dying, and somehow my voice helped heal him. I know that, and you know that, but try explaining it to Admiral Harrison Blake when he's staring down the barrel of 3 Concordat dreadnoughts. Collins pulled up a holographic display showing military positions throughout human space. Red dots marked Concordat battle groups moving toward Earth and the major colonies. The door chimed, and Dr. Rebecca Chen from the Terran Research Institute rushed in, her arms full of data tablets and recording equipment. Jake, I've been analyzing the acoustic patterns from your cavern recording. This is absolutely revolutionary. She spread her equipment across the table, her eyes bright with scientific fervor. Your vocal cords, your brain wave patterns, even the way your neurons fire when you sing. It's like humans were specifically designed to interface with dragon harmonics. The mathematical precision required should be impossible for any organic creature to achieve naturally, but somehow you're doing it perfectly. What does that mean? Jake asked, though he was starting to suspect he already knew. It means every human might be capable of dragon song, Chen replied, her voice full of wonder. We've been testing volunteers from across the colonies. The preliminary results are incredible. Children seem especially gifted. There's a 10-year-old girl on New Geneva who recreated one of your harmonic patterns after hearing it just once. Collins stopped pacing and stared at Chen. You're teaching people to sing dragon song? Are you completely insane? The Concordat will glass every human world if they think we're building an army of star manipulators. It's too late to worry about that now, Chen said grimly. The dragons are coming out of hiding. She activated her main display, showing a galactic map dotted with pulsing lights. Every day, we get new reports. A dragon emerged from the ice caves of Hoth 7 yesterday. Another one was spotted near the asteroid belts of the Tau Ceti system. They're drawn to human settlements, Jake. Your song is calling them from wherever they've been hiding for the past 3 centuries. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How many are there? We estimate at least 50, maybe more. They've been sleeping in hidden places across the galaxy, waiting for something that never came. Until now. The communication array suddenly crackled to life, and Aurelius's familiar voice filled the room. The dragon had learned to use human technology with surprising speed. Jake Thompson, Aurelius said, his mental voice now carrying an urgency that hadn't been there before. I must speak with you immediately. We have discovered something terrible. Within minutes, Jake was connected to a secure channel that linked him to dragon voices from across the galaxy. What he heard made his blood run cold. The Concordat's mining operations are worse than we initially believed, explained a dragon who called herself Celestine. They have been systematically draining the life force from young stars to power their war machine. Entire systems that should burn brightly for billions of years are dying in mere centuries. Another voice joined in, older and more weary. I am Zephyr, and I have watched the Concordat hollow out the Orion Nebula. Where once 1,000 new stars were being born, now there is only darkness and the debris of their mining platforms. But why? Jake asked. Why would they do something so destructive? Power, Aurelius replied simply. Stellar energy is the ultimate fuel source. With it, they can build weapons that could crack planets in half, ships that can travel between galaxies in days instead of years. They have been preparing for some great war that only they know about. And in their greed, Celestine added, they have doomed entire civilizations. The Aldebaran system will be dark within 50 years. The Rigel sector has already lost 3 inhabited worlds to stellar collapse. Billions of innocent beings are dying because the Concordat treats stars like disposable batteries. Jake felt sick. Can the dragon songs fix this? Can we heal the damaged stars? Not alone, Zephyr admitted. The damage is too extensive. It would require hundreds of dragons working in perfect harmony, and as you know, we are few. But with human voices to amplify our songs, to add the mathematical precision that our weakened forms can no longer achieve, perhaps we could heal the galaxy's wounds. Then we have to try, Jake said without hesitation. We have to teach as many humans as possible to sing with you. The Concordat will not allow this, Aurelius warned. Already they are spreading propaganda, calling us monsters who deceive humans into serving our evil purposes. They have placed enormous bounties on any human who attempts dragon song. They are painting this as a war between human freedom and alien manipulation. Collins activated another display, showing Concordat news broadcasts from across the galaxy. Admiral Blake's stern face appeared on every channel, his silver hair and cold gray eyes radiating authority. The terrorist Jake Thompson has been deceived by hostile alien entities, Blake declared. These so-called star dragons are attempting to turn humanity into weapons against galactic peace. Any human who collaborates with these creatures will be treated as an enemy combatant. He's turning the entire galaxy against us, Jake said quietly. No, Chen replied, pulling up another set of data streams. Look at the colony reports, Jake. For every official condemnation, there are 100 ordinary people trying to learn dragon song. Parents are teaching their children the melodies you recorded. Entire communities are gathering to practice together. The displays showed spontaneous singing groups forming on dozens of human worlds. People who had never heard of dragons before were instinctively drawn to the haunting melodies that promised hope for dying stars. Humanity is choosing to help us, Aurelius observed with something like amazement. Even knowing the risks, even facing the Concordat's threats, your people are learning our songs. Jake looked out at the stars beyond the station's viewports, knowing that many of them were already dimming from Concordat mining. Somewhere out there, entire worlds were slowly freezing as their suns died prematurely. And somehow, incredibly, the solution might be as simple as teaching people to sing. Then we'd better work fast, he said. The galaxy is counting on us. The massive viewscreen on the bridge of the Harmony showed a sight that broke Jake's heart. Kepler 442, once a brilliant yellow star that had warmed 5 thriving worlds for billions of years, was now a sick orange giant barely holding itself together. Dark spots covered its surface like infected wounds, and its light flickered like a candle in the wind. Stellar collapse imminent, reported Lieutenant Tommy Chen from his sensor station. The star's core temperature has dropped below fusion threshold. We're looking at total system failure within the next 6 hours. Jake pressed his face against the reinforced window, staring down at the dying sun. Somewhere around that fading star, 5 billion people were watching their sky grow darker by the hour. Children were asking their parents why it was getting so cold. Families were huddling together as their world's temperature dropped degree by degree. How long do the planets have? Asked Captain Jessica Ryan, her weathered face grim with the weight of command. Once the star goes completely dark, the inner worlds will freeze solid within days, Chen replied. The outer planets might last a few weeks, but without any heat source. He didn't need to finish. Everyone on the bridge understood what stellar death meant for inhabited worlds. Jake clenched his fists, feeling helpless rage burning in his chest. This wasn't natural stellar evolution, no matter what the Concordat claimed. Their mining ships had been draining energy from Kepler 442 for decades, using massive gravity wells to siphon stellar matter for their war machines. They had murdered this star as surely as if they had shot it with weapons. Concordat battle group approaching from Sector 7, announced Communications Officer Kelly Martinez. 12 heavy cruisers and 3 dreadnoughts. They're hailing us on all channels. Put them through, Captain Ryan ordered, her jaw set for a fight. Admiral Harrison Blake's face appeared on the main screen, his cold gray eyes scanning the bridge with obvious disdain. Behind him, Jake could see the gleaming white interior of a Concordat flagship, all clean lines and military precision. Captain Ryan, Blake said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never been disobeyed. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. You are interfering with natural stellar processes. Natural? Captain Ryan laughed bitterly. Admiral, your people have been strip mining this star for 30 years. There's nothing natural about what's happening here. The Concordat's energy harvesting operations are conducted within strict environmental guidelines, Blake replied smoothly. If this star is experiencing difficulties, it is due to normal stellar aging, not our activities. Jake couldn't stay silent any longer. He stepped forward, anger making his voice shake. 5 billion people are about to die because of your energy harvesting. Are you really going to stand there and pretend this isn't your fault? Blake's expression didn't change, but his eyes focused on Jake with laser intensity. "Ah, the terrorist Jake Thompson. I should have known you would be behind this illegal operation." "Illegal operation? We're trying to save lives. You're attempting to use weaponized alien entities to destabilize galactic security," Blake shot back. "Those creatures you're working with have destroyed entire civilizations in the past. We will not allow them to do so again." On the observation deck below the bridge, Jake could see the 23 star dragons that had answered his call. They floated in perfect formation around the dying star, their scales dim with exhaustion from the journey across the galaxy. Most of them were still weak from centuries of hiding, barely maintaining their physical forms. Aurelius was among them, his ancient presence a comfort in Jake's mind. "We are ready, Jake Thompson," the dragon's voice whispered. "But we will need every human voice you can gather. This star is more damaged than any we have attempted to heal." "Admiral," Captain Ryan said, trying one last time to reason with Blake. "Even if you don't trust the dragons, look at your senses. That star is going to collapse whether we're here or not. If there's even a chance we can save 5 billion lives, shouldn't we try?" Blake's answer came in the form of weapons fire. Brilliant red energy beams lanced out from his dreadnoughts, targeting the dragon formation around the dying star. "All ships, return fire." Captain Ryan shouted, but Jake grabbed her arm. "Wait. Don't shoot back. We need to focus on the song. Jake, they're trying to kill the dragons. And if we start a space battle, the dragons won't be able to concentrate on healing the star. Trust me." Jake activated the ship-wide communication system, his voice echoing through every deck of the Harmony and the dozen other vessels in their small fleet. "This is it, everyone. We've practiced this song 100 times, but it's never mattered more than right now. 5 billion people are counting on us to get this right." He took a deep breath and began to sing the great song of rekindling, the complex melody that combined his grandmother's simple lullaby with ancient dragon harmonics that Aurelius had taught him. His voice was immediately joined by Captain Ryan, then Lieutenant Chen, then Kelly Martinez. Within seconds, the entire bridge crew was singing, their voices blending in mathematical precision that seemed impossible for untrained civilians to achieve. But Jake had learned that humans possessed an instinctive understanding of these harmonics, as if the ability had been sleeping in their DNA for millions of years. The song spread throughout their fleet like wildfire. Dr. Amanda Collins led the science team aboard the research vessel Discovery. Children from the colony ship New Earth added their pure, clear voices to the growing chorus. Even gruff cargo haulers and military veterans found themselves humming along to melodies that touched something deep in their souls. "Incredible," whispered Communications Officer Martinez, tears streaming down her face as she sang. "I can feel it working. I can actually feel the star responding." And she was right. On the main view screen, Kepler 442's surface was beginning to change. The dark spots that had covered the star like cancer were shrinking, pushed back by waves of renewed nuclear fusion. The star's sickly orange glow was slowly shifting back toward healthy yellow. The dragons channeled the collective human chorus, their bodies glowing brighter as they wove the song into a sonic tapestry that wrapped around the dying star like healing hands. Jake could feel the mathematical complexity of what they were doing, equations so beautiful and precise that they made his mind reel. But the most amazing thing was what happened aboard the Concordat ships. At first, only a few voices joined in. A young communications officer aboard Blake's flagship started humming along unconsciously. A maintenance worker in the engine room found himself whistling the melody. But as more and more Concordat personnel heard the song, they couldn't resist adding their voices to the growing harmony. "Cease that singing immediately." Blake shouted over his ship's comm system, but it was too late. The dragon song had a power that transcended military discipline and political boundaries. It spoke to something fundamental in human nature, something that had been waiting to awaken for millions of years. Soon, entire Concordat crews were singing along, their voices joining the cosmic chorus that was literally bringing a star back to life. Jake watched through tears of joy as Kepler 442 blazed back to brilliant life, its corona expanding with renewed energy. The planets in the system, which had been growing colder by the hour, suddenly bathed in warm golden light once again. 5 billion people would wake up tomorrow to a sun that burned as brightly as it had when their ancestors first settled these worlds. Admiral Blake's face on the view screen showed pure shock. His weapons had stopped firing, his crew was singing dragon songs, and before his eyes, a dead star was being resurrected by the combined voices of humans and dragons working together. "How?" was all he could manage to say. "This is what humans were meant to do," Jake replied softly, his voice still carrying harmonics from the great song. Not conquer or destroy, but heal. We're not your enemies, Admiral. We're the galaxy's healers, and there's room for everyone in this song. Across known space, the news spread faster than lightspeed communications could carry it. Humans had brought a star back to life. The age of stellar death and energy scarcity was over, replaced by an era of healing and cosmic harmony. Within months, the Concordat's authority collapsed as world after world demanded the right to learn Dragon Song. Species that had never gotten along began working together to heal their damaged star systems. Children grew up learning melodies that could warm dying suns and guide planets into safe orbits. Jake stood in the garden of the new Terra Dragonsinger Academy, watching his students practice their vocal exercises under the light of stars that should have died centuries ago but now blazed with renewed life. Aurelius rested nearby, his scales bright and healthy, no longer the last of his kind but the teacher of a new generation. "You did it, Jake Thompson," the dragon said, his mental voice warm with contentment. "You saved not just my people, but the stars themselves." Jake smiled, listening to human voices learning songs that could heal the cosmos. Somewhere in the distance, children were laughing as they practiced harmonies that their great-grandchildren would use to kindle new suns. The last dragon was no longer dying, and neither were the stars. The galaxy had found its healers at last, and their song would echo through space for millions of years to come.